I think of it in the terms of education and how I've been teaching it to kids and how I've reflected and shifted the way I taught it. It's the idea that Black people have to exist in this space of duality, right? So I am one way with my family. I'm another way when I come into work. A lot of times we're working in white spaces where we have to kind of put on an entirely new persona, from the way we dress to the way we speak, our tone. So the ability to navigate between these two spaces is what we call code switching. As I've come to do some more self-reflection, do more reading and research, I realized for myself, I feel like I've been teaching the concept wrong. A lot of times you teach code switching as a way to gain access into spaces that traditionally Black people have not been given access. What I've come to now do when I teach children about code switching is the idea of gaining access so you can now dismantle the system and make it comfortable for who you are outside of that space to be okay. In most white spaces, not most white spaces, white people don't ever have to think of code switching. They are taught, they're raised to be who you are in whatever space. However, when it comes to us in spaces, we are not allowed to be ourselves. Therefore, we take on this second self. So I've now been teaching children that there's nothing wrong with you, but understanding that there's certain norms that govern this space. That's great. Learn those norms. Hold on to who you are. But once you get there, you now have to make that space comfortable to who it is that you are and be comfortable in that space.
When you're navigating a lot of these white spaces that are telling you your body is not a part of this space, or it's an unfamiliar body in this space, you sort of have to adopt the language and the movements of whoever has normalized that space. So it's a very tricky thing. And on one hand, it is survival. On the other hand, the way that I look at it is it keeps on communicating to me who I am. And it keeps communicating to me the spaces where, as Vanessa said, I have to insert myself more. You make choices on, okay, am I going to say something in this meeting? Am I going to use the physical and emotional energy that I have to break it down for these people and tell them that this idea that they've just proposed, it's no good. And it's actually not great for all students. And it's only going to service a certain type of student and not all, or be more inclusive. Because in some ways, you have to be really good at reading the room. There are a lot of people who just don't want to listen to talk about what diversity actually means. And there are a lot of people who write about diversity, but one of the things that's always stuck with me is that diversity means that we should still be able to talk about racism. So for me, navigating these spaces and code switching sometimes is important because in some ways you want to be able to infiltrate. You want to be able to maybe plant a seed. And I think importantly, you want to be able to see who in the room might have a politics that you can work with. Someone who's going to understand the importance of the issues that you raise, even though the majority of the people in the room don't want to talk about those things. So yeah, it's a very, very thin tightrope, or a thin line that I feel that I walk sometimes. And the only way that I can sort of get through it is to, talk with other people who might have been in that meeting or that space afterwards about what went down, and maybe how we can go into that space again and use one another as a support to say certain things in meetings that raise certain issues that maybe the room isn't ready for. But sometimes it makes a huge difference if it's more than just one person sticking their neck out there and naming the things for what they are.
When you think about this idea of infiltrating the space, it's finding opportunities for you to be able to speak up and to speak about what is happening in the space that may not be inclusive of everyone. But it definitely has been taught as a survival technique But I think that has also been one of the generational curses, I would say, that has been handed down to us, that we've been taught how to survive. We now need to learn how to thrive in spaces. So now when I think of teaching code switching, it's not from a point of survival, but now that I'm in this space, I'm working here, how do I now make it comfortable so that I can be my best self? I feel like for too long, people of color get into spaces and we're always walking on a tightrope. We're never in the space and feel at ease in the space. So I feel now the challenge is, how do I now find peace in this space, although I am surrounded by all these white supremacy ideas, all these ideas that speak to whiteness. But even thinking of when you're in spaces and there's a tone, right? When you walk into buildings, it needs to be quiet. Us by tradition, like, we're not a loud people, but when we talk, we get excited. We're passionate, right? Why is our passion always viewed as something negative, right? Oh, they're angry. But this other white guy over here, he's screaming at the top of his lungs, but that's passion. But getting comfortable being like that and not feeling away when people comment about it, or getting to a point where you can now come back. Well, why is what I'm doing being viewed as being aggressive, but this person did it and we didn't see anything think anything about it? So getting comfortable with making people uncomfortable with the things that they say. We have to get to a point where I'm willing to challenge and not feel away. And although a lot of my experience has been with other people of color, they have also swallowed and drank the Kool-Aid of white supremacy, because even where I am now, I watch how even people of color try to police a lot of the children that I deal with. Oh, they're so loud. Why does she have to speak that way? So what if she's loud? Does it take away from the fact that she's intelligent and brilliant and has ideas to share? Then let her be loud. Like, it doesn't matter. Or we got into a debate recently about our young girls wanting to wrap their hair in traditional African cloth. My supervisor had an issue with that. Oh, they need to comb their hair. I said, do we say that to Muslim girls when they wear the hijab, or when someone puts a yarmulke on their head? Why is it that when children that look like you want to embrace and express who they are, we see it as an issue? And the only thing I can go back to is, again, although we look how we look, a lot of us have ingested the poison of white supremacy and we spit it out and don't even realize it.